Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Deffinition, aka your friendly neighbourhood spoiler man, and this video we're breaking down Iron Man 2, I Want My Bird. Though the film is often cited as one of the weakest entries in the MCU, I think as part of the whole it works brilliantly. The movie introduces new characters, sets up things to come, and also shows Tony at his most vulnerable point. After binge watching the MCU, I definitely think that the film improves in several ways, and hopefully this video shines it in a new light for you. Throughout this, we're going to be going through some of the Easter eggs in the film that don't pay off until much later in the franchise. This isn't every single Easter egg, but there's a lot on here that I haven't seen mentioned in other videos, so I do hope you enjoy it. Obviously, there will be heavy spoilers here, so if you haven't had a chance to watch all 23 films in the Infinity Saga, then I highly recommend that you turn off now. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as we do videos like this every day, and please drop a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. With that out of the way, thank you for clicking this. Now let's get into our breakdown of Iron Man 2. Okay, so up top, before we get into the details, I just want to talk about the villains of the piece. Iron Man 2 is often criticised for having lackluster antagonists, but both not only service the plot in several ways, they also reflect aspects of Tony's personality. Justin Hammer is basically a self-obsessed businessman who tries to use his charm and charisma to further his career. He's a womanizing scoundrel, and don't you just bloody love him. He's attempting to build his own version of the Iron Man suit, and he copies Tony in several ways to his own detriment. Unlike Tony, he's unwilling to put himself in the firing line, and whereas Tony spent hours in his workshop innovating new designs and technology, Hammer simply steals them from others. No more is this shown in the line by Hammer where he meets Vanko and the two discuss their plans. Hammer orders some food and says that he likes to eat dessert first. If you've checked out our Get Out breakdown, then you'll know that food in films is often chosen for characters specifically. In Get Out, Rose ate cereal separate from milk, showing that she didn't like colours mixing with her idea of whiteness. Here, Hammer's choice to eat the dessert first shows that he wants instant gratification and pleasure without having to work for it. He's basically the arrogant side of Tony without the talent to back it up. However, that doesn't mean that Tony is perfect, and Hammer, similar to Killian in Iron Man 3, did initially want to work with him, but he was brushed to the side and ultimately this created a rivalry. On the other side of the coin, Vanko is a genius who was reduced to almost nothing, and similar to Tony in Iron Man 1, he used his skills to come back and was able to build something new. However, vengeance overtook him and thus he succumbed to it. Another common misconception that I've seen centered around both Iron Man and Spider-Man is that their villains in the MCU have been created by Tony. This is often a criticism that's leveled towards the Spider-Man films, as Peter tends to deal with the repercussions of Tony's actions. However, in this film we learn Tony actually inherited his initial two villains, similar to how Spider-Man does later down the line. Both Stain and Vanko were created by Howard Stark, and then Tony had to deal with the sins of the father. Tony is a father figure to Peter, and thus this repetition of him inheriting his initial two villains is a nice carryover. One thing I also didn't really notice until this rewatch either is how much Thanos and Tony actually mirror one another. Both are heavily concerned with resources and sustaining life in the long run. Tony wishes to use the arc reactor to do this in the film in order to make clean and sustainable energy for the planet. We see this journey through the MCU to the point he believes he is saving the Earth by creating Ultron. Ultron ultimately ends up dooming the world, and this is similar to how Thanos believed that he was saving the universe by carrying out the snap, but as we learn from Endgame, it had left all life in a state of despair. So both had good intentions, but they ultimately ended up going about it the wrong way. However, Tony was able to come back and do the right thing, whereas Thanos was not. In Iron Man 1, Tony states that the best weapon is the weapon that you only have to fire once, and that is of course what Thanos does when completing the snap. Stark also has a weapon that we learn he can only fire once, which is a laser beam that takes out all of the drones. This laser is also used only once in Civil War when Tony is fighting against Bucky and Cap, and in Endgame in the final battle. There's also an incredible line in the film uttered by Vanko, who after fighting Tony at the Grand Prix states, "If you can make God bleed, people will cease to believe in him." Thanos was thought to be godlike in Infinity War and almost unbeatable. Loki at one point said that he would never become a god, but after his journey of completing 6 tasks and resting on the metaphorical 7th, it became clear that he was. However, in Infinity War, Tony was able to make Thanos bleed, and he even acknowledged it by saying all that for a drop of blood. If you've seen Zack Snyder's 300, then you'll know the film ends in a certain way, and similar to that, this shows that it is possible to beat Thanos, because if you can make God bleed, people will cease to believe in him. Anyway, that's a long-winded way of talking about the themes and parallels in the film. The movie itself opens in the wake of the Iron Man press conference. Not long after this, Tony met Nick Fury in his home. He uttered the line, "You become part of a bigger universe, you just don't know it yet," and this was mirrored in his meeting with Spider-Man in Far From Home, in which he told him that he was part of a multiverse. So he initially told Iron Man he was part of a bigger universe, and in Far From Home he told Spider-Man that he was part of multiple universes. Tony and Peter are the only Marvel characters to get 2 films in the same phase as well, cementing that Spider-Man will indeed be taking over the reins of the franchise going forward. Vanko watches the Stark press conference on TV, and his father passes away. Angered by the treachery of the Starks who left his family to die in poverty, he begins to build. Now shoutouts to Jared Hamilton, who on my last Iron Man video pointed out that this scene echoes the cave scene from the first film. Vanko hammers away and creates his own version of the suit using arc reactor technology, which we learn his father co-created with Howard Stark. There's also a shot of bread and butter over a blueprint, perhaps symbolizing that they made their bread and butter through the arc reactor. We learn that after Howard learned Vanko's father only wanted the reactor as a means to get rich, he had him deported. So this bread and butter could be linked to that. Bit of a reach, but you know me, that's what you're here for. We're also introduced to Vanko's bird, best bird in the MCU, do not at me Falcon. Cut to Tony about to drop in on the Stark Expo, and we hear Shoot to Thrill by AC/DC. In Iron Man 1 we were introduced to Stark through Back in Black by the band, and this is a nice progression for the character. I also don't know if this is intentional, but the dancers surrounding a hero and almost parading him reminds me a lot of the Star-Spangled Man from the first Captain America movie. From here we learn that Tony has Palladium poisoning. This is due to the arc reactor in his chest, but it could also have been pushed into overdrive due to Pepper releasing Palladium gas in Iron Man in order to destroy the reactor. We see a presentation by Howard Stark, which is meant to resemble the Epcot presentation by Walt Disney. Tony is called to go to the Senate hearing, which is led by Senator Stern. We learn that he is a Hydra agent in the Winter Soldier, and also meet Justin Hammer, who states that Tony has created a sword that he says is a shield. This could be a reference to Captain America, who primarily uses a shield as a weapon, but it could also be a nod to the Marvel group Sword and Shield from the comics. Tony hijacks the video feed and plays a hammer demonstration in which someone gets twisted in a suit, and yikes, that looks like it hurts. In Doctor Strange, Strange turns down a case for a 35-year-old Air Force colonel who severely damaged his spine in experimental armor. Though this was often thought to be Rhodey, it was denied by Marvel, so it is possible that it's the person we see in this footage. We can also see on Tony's phone an app for the Illuminati, which is a superhero group in Marvel Comics. Tony also throws up a peace sign, which shows how far he's come from the first film. In that he made fun of someone throwing up one in the Fun V, and then upon exiting the cave he threw one up to signal a helicopter overhead. Peace reappears here, and in Age of Ultron he says all he wants is peace in our time. It's also what he says to Cap when trying to bridge the gap with him in Endgame. We then cut to the workshop and see the versions of the Iron Man suits. We can actually see above the Mark 1 that it's a reconstruction, and this is how he has it in the workshop after it was pretty badly destroyed in the first film. Tony also hangs up an Iron Man picture, which is a play on the Obama image. We see this being sold at the end of the Avengers, and it's nice to see it go from here into that film. He appoints Pepper as a CEO, and she asks if he's been drinking, to which he replies chlorophyll. This is actually to counteract his palladium poisoning and the effects that it has on his body. When telling her this, he says he tried to figure out a worthy successor, and then drops the line, "It's you, it's always been you." This line would reappear in Endgame when he records a farewell message to Pepper after believing that his time was up. We also see a hint of the Iron Man suitcase in this scene too. It's nicknamed the Football, which is a reference to the presidential briefcase that has the launch codes for nuclear weapons in it. Vanko meets with a member of the Ten Rings, who as we know were the villains from the first film, and they're led by the Mandarin. Happy Hogan practices boxing with Tony, and this is a callback to his origin story in which he was a boxer. Stark looks up Natasha's, or rather Natalie's resume, and we can see that she has Hammer Industries on it, which could show that she was also trying to infiltrate his company. In Monaco they meet Elon Musk, who says he has an idea for an electric jet. In the next scene we see that Tony has already invented this and that he's beaten him to the punch. Should have invented a better name for your daughter, am I right? Christine Everhart from Iron Man shows up and we learn she's doing a big spread on Justin, and that she did a big spread for Tony in the first movie. I've seen that. A photographer also takes a picture which appears in the Avengers in Stark Tower. Vanko shows up and gets the suit, and I didn't notice this, but a keen redditor spotted that the suitcase had a foothold on the other side, showing that Tony could deploy it either way. Vanko attacks Stark's suit with electricity, and this causes a lot of problems with it. In these breakdowns we always talk about how Tony learns from his mistakes, and in order to combat this, he clearly puts measures in place to absorb this in the future. This is how when Thor attacks him in the Avengers, it overpowers the suit instead of completely wrecking it. This was also used as a way to attack Thanos in Avengers Endgame. Tony beats Vanko, he drops the guard line, is saved by Hammer and taken to meet him. This actually happens at Elon Musk's SpaceX facility, and you should have called your daughter SpaceX, am I right? Hammer also refers to himself as a benefactor, and this is why many people believe he may be the mysterious figure operating behind the scenes in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Also, yeah, give the man his bird, yeah, he just wants his bird. He also begins building drones for Hammer and utters the line that I love, "Drone better." Though Tony didn't initially do this, in Iron Man 3 we see he's enabled his suits to have drone capabilities. At Tony's party stuff goes down and he and War Machine fight it out. The fight goes through the ceiling, and when they come back down we actually see Natasha almost blow her cover as she adopts a martial arts stance when this happens. This shows she's ready for a fight in such a scenario. They cross the streams, which of course plays into how they defeat Vanko at the end. Rhodey flies to an Air Force base, and we also see the soldier from the first film. Remember him? He's called Alan. Anyway, he's back to meet with the character. Tony meets with Nick Fury and Black Widow's cover is revealed. They then go to his home in Malibu and we see Tony sitting in the same robe that a young Howard wore in Agent Carter. Hammer sells weapons to build War Machine, and this is how Vanko is able to infiltrate his systems. We also see a missile known as the ex-wife that would make Ulysses look like it was written in crayon. This shows the lack of Hammer's knowledge, as Ulysses was actually written in crayon to help James Joyce see it. Tony goes through a briefcase left by his father, and we can also see a copy of Captain America issue 1. Tony plays back a film reel from his dad that contains his final message to an adult Tony. He's passing on a message to the future, and the way that the projector is set up, plus Howard's final stance when delivering this, echoes Tony's final message at the end of Endgame. That was played on a projector within the helmet, and it was left to Morgan, Tony's child, much in the same way that Howard left this for his child Tony. I would love it if we revisited the moment from Endgame with Morgan later in the series and saw that she had a secret message from Tony too, as it would really symbolise a passing of the torch. This being a message from both characters from beyond the grave is very poetic and shows how Marvel love to carry across symbolism. In Howard's manual we also see a cube, and that is the Tesseract. Howard found this at the end of Captain America the First Avenger, and we learned that he'd been working on it in Endgame when Tony travelled back in time. Tony goes to a roadside stop with a guy selling strawberries. He says he doesn't like people handing him things, and this is a motif that's stuck with the character. He did it at the start of the movie, in Avengers when meeting Coulson, and the only time that he doesn't really mind it is when his father hands him flowers in Endgame. Also, shoutouts to Philith from Reddit, who pointed out that the watch Tony trades for strawberries is actually the one that Obadiah gave him in the first movie. He goes to see Pepper and get that thing off the desk. Also, we see Bill O'Reilly, who completely slams Pepper, verbally harasses her, and yet this scene has not aged well. We also see a cover of Fortune magazine which a young Tone features on, and this echoes the initial presentation at the award show on the character in the first film. Tony creates a new element, and when doing this we also see the Captain America shield from the prior film. This was behind Tony as the suit was dismantled, and here it's used on a pipe. No wonder these guys fell out in Civil War. Also, Tony dons a black vest when working on it, And this is of course a callback to Iron Man 1 when he was in the cave, and also Endgame when he was working with Nebula. He creates a new element and heads to the Stark Expo where Justin Hammer is doing a presentation on his new drones. We see the Hammer logo looks a lot like the Kingdom of Asgard, and the company is also called Hammer, which could be a very subtle nod to Mjolnir. The press faces a different problem because they're about to run out of ink writing how good this video is, and we see the drones which go haywire and start attacking people. Also, a nice little addition is that when the War Machine armor is hacked, the writing in it changes to Russian. I'm sure you've also seen this one before, but just because it ties so heavily into the MCU, we really can't miss it out. The boy wearing an Iron Man mask is indeed Peter Parker, and this was confirmed by Feige as a fun little Easter egg. Black Widow and Happy head to Hammer Industries, and we see Natasha taking down multiple security guards. In the Black Widow trailer, we can also see Taskmaster studying a tape of this in order to learn her fighting styles and moves. Widow reboots the War Machine armor, and the Hammer drones land. Tony does the dodge move from a missile, which we saw him do in the first Iron Man film when facing off against the tank. They manage to take them down, Hammer is arrested, and he tells Pepper that he will be seeing her again soon, and this could be setting up the Benefactor role down the line. Tony and Rhodey fight Vanko, and we also see Stark use the smaller dart rockets that he did in Iron Man 1. They manage to take the villain out by crossing the streams, and the former ends up saving Pepper after the drones trigger to self-destruct. In Iron Man, Tony and Pepper shared a scene on a balcony where they didn't kiss, however here they do, bringing that scene full circle. The film ends with Tony seeing the Avengers Initiative as he meets with Fury. In the background you can also see a map that has several locations including New Mexico, Greenland and more. Wakanda is hinted at, which is of course the home of Black Panther. Malibu is highlighted, which is Tony. New Mexico is Thor. Greenland for Captain America, and Virginia for the Incredible Hulk. Senator Stern gives Tony and Rhodey a medal, and Hail Snydra. AC/DC Highway to Hell plays over the credits, and this could be hinting at what's in store for Tony down the line. Or it could just be because it's an awesome song. Anyway, that's our list. Obviously, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the breakdown, and if there's any Easter eggs that should have made it. Comment below and let us know, and if you enjoyed this video then please drop a thumbs up, and make sure you check out our breakdown of Iron Man, which is going to be linked at the end. I think it's one of our best videos ever, so please give it a watch after this. If you want to support the channel from as little as 99 cents a month, then please click the join button below. We massively appreciate it, and as a thank you, you get access to content early. If you want to come chat to us after the show, either follow us at Heavy Spoilers or click the Discord link in the description below. Those are the best ways to keep up to date, so hopefully we see you over there very soon. This is a channel for people who are super into superheroes, so if that's the kind of thing you like, hit subscribe. Thank you for taking the time to watch this. I've been Deffinition, you've been the best, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.